Antonella, welcome to the show. It is such a pleasure to have you. Thank you for your time. I know you're super busy, so yeah, just let's jump right into it. What do you say?
Yeah, no, it's really nice to continue our conversation. As I was saying, when we first met, we had a great conversation. So I'm excited to be able to share with your followers and anyone who may tune in to this episode.
Let's tell the listener just a little bit about you, Antonella, and how you started in medicine and where you're at now.
Yeah, so just for complete transparency, I'm not an MD or physician, but I do have a background in public health. And my journey started, I guess I was always interested in medicine. I did want to become a neurosurgeon, and I think I was prompted to get into the medical space because my mother, when I was 4 years old, was diagnosed with melanoma. And this is something that my grandfather had, his mother had. And as a 4-year-old, I have an older sister, and my mom would come home from her appointments and she would have like stitches on her back. And my sister and my father, they didn't want to look at it. They were really freaked out by the exposure of, skin and blood and everything. And I was like, well, I'll take a look. I'll clean it. I'll help you. And so that's where this whole interest in health stemmed from, and it continued. I would say when I started college, I was still dabbling in the idea of going to medical school, but then grew more interested in public health. So how do we actually, create preventative measures in the health space before, let's say, reaching a disease phase or like needing to go to the hospital or see a doctor. I also grew more interested in health technology and medical devices. So that stemmed also from wanting to learn about my grandfather, who I never met. He was an OB/GYN from Brazil. He came over to New York to open his private practice. And he was also on faculty at, some of the hospitals in New York City, like Beth Israel Hospital, Cornell, all the big ones. And he was super ahead of his time, thinking about electric vehicles in the 70s and vaccines that we still don't even have really tied down yet, like herpes vaccines. And he also invented one of the first intrauterine devices, or IUDs, and it was used globally. The difference with his device was that it was non-hormonal and non-copper. So most devices or contraceptives that we have on the market today have hormone or copper or any type of metallic elements added to them. And his didn't. I thought it was just going to be research and a way to connect with my roots. And I started writing some papers on what it would mean to create, or I guess recreate, this category of contraceptives for women and people all over the world who may have that unmet need or not really resonate with what's currently available on the market. So the more I researched, the more I gave some talks. I had people come up to me and really they opened up and they shared their stories about how they can't use what's on the market, or they don't like what's on the market, and let me know when you're doing clinical studies. So that's when it pivoted to it just being research to actually thinking that this could be a reality again. Yeah, so I started the research part about 8 years ago now, but I only met my engineer in 2018, I think. Yeah, 2018. So I was at Penn, University of Pennsylvania, and I met him through some colleagues there. And we just clicked on the fact that he had built really cool devices in the past that are used either in operating rooms or He did some design for the Relief Band, which is like an anti-nausea bracelet, which I used, and I was sort of like the tester, and it works. So I was like, okay, this guy has drive. He clearly, knows what he's doing, and we just flowed well together. And, I couldn't build the device by myself or have those outlets. I come from a health background, so I needed more of those technical skills.
Do you have any suggestions that were kind of like takeaways for you so far in the journey that may be helpful for the listeners?
I would say the biggest one is really taking time to figure out who you want to work with and how to build your network in this space. It's, in a sense, I find like searching for the right person can be a full-time job in itself, but it's extremely worth it in the end because it'll save a lot of headaches and, company structural shifting that you may need to do, or, any legal implications that can come along with it. I would say that's the biggest one that I have, making sure that you really flow well with your team, and that the people that are working with you are coming to work with you with their experiences that are, that will contribute greatly to the project. Because it's not fun to bring someone in and then have to like drag them along or realize that you made a mistake.
And then I heard you talk about legal structures, legal challenges. That's kind of like in real estate, legal is a piece of our network as well too. This will be different for everybody, but what would your network look like for a medical device per se, generally speaking?
Yeah, it's pretty vast. I mean, you need the MD. So I have an MPH. So it's anywhere from, the more strictly clinical side, whether it's surgeons, OBGYNs, anyone who can potentially use or insert the IUD, but also, just general medical advice is always much appreciated for us. Then public health professionals and looking at what policies have shifted in the women's health space over time. There's a lot going on currently. And then product development people and product designers and regulatory consultants and strategists to look at on the FDA side of, clinical studies and design and what's needed there. Engineers, so mechanical, mostly. We don't really need software engineers, but how to actually build the device and trying to find the right manufacturers and suppliers and people that can do, let's say, our biocompatibility tests and making sure all the materials are correct. And I also just like to keep a general network of students. I think they've been super helpful.
So I just want to touch with you and your path. So far, you're focused on the business, and that is a great focus. Where is it at in your mind, Antonella, like other sources or different types of assets to invest in? Has that been a thought?
Yeah, I mean, I think my two main, focuses for where I've put funding or money have been obviously 𝗦𝗀. And then another one is my closest cousin bought a bunch of real estate in Detroit, and it ranges from, he bought this huge warehouse, he bought a restaurant, a cafe, etc. And I decided a few years ago to put money into that. And I think, real estate is one of the best investments you can make, especially it's like once you have it, it's yours. There's no expiration date on it, which is really, I think, special. And the risk of losing it is a lot, it's safer than most, online or financial, platform investments. I'm really grateful that, you know, my grandparents and like my mom also invested in real estate in some capacity, because there's just this level of, it just makes you feel a lot more secure. And I don't know, I feel like in this time and age and what's going on in the world, it's nice to feel like something at least is secure and that you have a little bit of control over that.
Yeah.